Hello, friends. My knife is coming. Wow, you have magic. It's so cool. Be sure to subscribe to my channel. There resides a local legend in Salem, Alabama, one tucked far away in the corner of rural America, far off the beaten path, far from even the middle of nowhere, a legend that rears its head only once a year, Pope's Haunted Farm. For over 25 years, Pope's has made a killing in my area. I'd call it a mom-and-pop Halloween stop. But Pope's is so much more elaborate than that. Not to mention pricier. But the money is worth it. I haven't been since I was a kid, but I can still remember the Pope's being quite the setup. It wasn't just local drunks in clown masks either. I mean, they had that too. But Pope's offered something more. Tunnels full of billowing smoke, rooms with distorted mirrors, haunted trailers scattered about a dark, haunted forest. You get the idea. In addition to the obligatory jump scares, Pope's gave you a harrowing atmosphere. You really felt like you were lost and disoriented on this terrifying farm, trapped in a hillbilly nightmare. And shit, in Columbus, Georgia, Pope's was the closest place to get our Halloween kicks. It sounds crazy considering Columbus is 10 times the size of Salem, but it's true. Pope's was only a 30-mile drive, and there wasn't anything else in Salem anyway. Just getting lost out in that rural wasteland would give you chills. I mean, it's nothing but empty fields and abandoned buildings. Honestly, they should have just called the city Copeland. But then again, Salem is a pretty appropriate name as well. During October, my friends and I were serious about going the Friday before Halloween, but as the weeks rolled by, our crew fell apart one by one. Everyone bailed, like they did every year. By the time that fateful Friday arrived, all we had left were the reliables, me, my girlfriend Veronica, and Veronica's 18-year-old brother JJ. Veronica and I had been dating for well over a year, so the three of us had gotten pretty close by now. JJ didn't mind being the third wheel either. Then again, why would he consider we supplied the alcohol and paid his way most of the time? An hour before takeoff, Veronica, and JJ were waiting on Veronica's best friend Lauren. We'd already gotten a table at a Mexican restaurant, pre-game for the show. This wasn't even counting all the alcohol we already had stored in Veronica's SUV. Supposedly, Lauren and her boyfriend were gonna show, but they cancelled at the last minute. In epic bitch fashion, I might add. Dejected, Veronica wondered if we should still go. It was already 10 and they stopped selling tickets at 11, and Salem was a 20-minute drive. I pleaded with Veronica that we still had time. Salem was an hour behind us. I reminded her we still had almost 2 hours to get tickets. And then, like a message from the Halloween gods, Veronica got a text from her other bestie Carty. Carty hadn't hung out with us in months. Sure, she and Veronica had talked, but this came out of nowhere, and she actually wanted to go to Pope's with us. This surprised me since Carty wasn't one for getting scared. Hell, she never even bothered going to horror movies with us. She was more like a romantic comedy type. But fuck it, she liked to drink, and we now had a real group for the night's festivities. I and Veronica were Nicki fans, but hey, we liked to party with Carty. Around 10:30. The four of us left in Veronica's SUV. I sat in the back with JJ while Veronica and Carty were up front. We had over an hour and a half to get tickets, so we took our time. Not for the scenic atmosphere, but to drink. I and JJ had a 12-pack to share. The girls countless mini bottles of liquor. I didn't know Carty all that well aside from our drunken nights spent at Outlaws and other bars, but she was always nice to me. From what I understand, her boyfriend Josh was a real douche though. I never pressed Veronica for more info, but the problems seemed to lean toward abuse. Either way, I was glad Kati came tonight. She mentioned just wanting to get away from Josh, so I was glad she joined. After all, getting scared is always more fun with a group. We crossed the state line around 10:45. I was buzzed, and I was sure everyone else was. Veronica is thankfully an expert drunk driver though, so I wasn't too worried about that. Not that it mattered much since no one else was on the road anyway. I mean, not a single car. I looked over and saw Veronica's cell phone sitting in her lap. The GPS showed the address for Pope's 13 Farm Road. As we got closer to our destination, I could feel the excitement growing inside both me and the car. I played my Halloween mix much to Veronica's annoyance. Hey, at least everyone else was enjoying it. Amidst the playlist of screaming sound effects and Halloween jams, I could tell Kati was nervous, more so from dread than excitement. Veronica teased her about it during the drive, and from my perspective, the booze didn't seem to be helping Kati's nerves any. Veronica grinned at Kati. "Don't be nervous. I got your back, girl." "You better," Kati replied, smiling. I watched their playful banter. I didn't want to tell Kati this, but she was so fucked when we got there. Popes could sniff out fear faster than an intimidating convict. This kind of place made their money off people they could easily scare. If there weren't any kids or preteens, Kati was gonna be the #1 target. I saw Veronica turn onto a dirt road. Sure, this was where the GPS was taking us, but somehow, it seemed weird, unfamiliar. Then again, maybe I was just drunk. I remembered seeing the usual array of shit barns and trailers on the way to Pope's, but out here, there was nothing. Just a dense forest. No one else seemed to care though, so I didn't let it bother me. Even when I realized there were no other cars around us, Werewolves of London played on the radio, leading us all into a chorus of drunken howls. But it didn't distract me from my unease. Why weren't there any signs for Popes? They usually had weirdos walking around in costumes to guide you to. JJ handed me another beer. "Hey, you want this?" Grabbing the can, I looked over at Kati. She was quiet and gripping a mini bottle like it was a weapon. "Kati, just relax," Veronica told her. Kati let out a chuckle, an obvious nervous tick. I leaned in toward Veronica. "How far away are we?" Veronica stole a glance at her phone. Confusion hit her. "Shit, it says we're already here." "What?" Nervous, Veronica held her phone up. And she was right. The destination was supposed to be on the left, but I don't see anything, Veronica said. She looked out the windshield. "That's weird," Kati said. I followed Veronica's gaze. The headlights only showed the desolate dirt road and surrounding forest. "I can be crushed," startled me and Kati. I looked over to see JJ holding an empty can. At least, the situation wasn't bothering him. "Are we almost there?" JJ asked in a drunken, lackadaisical tone. "You don't remember how to get there?" Veronica asked me. She turned down the radio, a sign she meant business. I looked out the windshield. "I don't know. There should be a sign or something." "Oh my god," Kati yelled in fright. We all saw it up ahead. A small light waving on the left. A bright, glowing lantern shaped like a grinning pumpkin. "That's gotta be it," Veronica said. She pulled in toward the light. As we got closer, I saw Kati sink back in her seat faster than a child watching a scary movie. I looked over and saw what scared her. Holding the lantern, a lumbering clown stood near a dark side road. The road appeared to be a long dirt driveway, like a discount Pennywise. The clown wore ragged, colorful clothing, as if he were from a 1930s circus, or at least wearing apparel from that era. The lantern looked just as old. It was a handmade lantern, Someone had carved it like it was a real pumpkin, but it had to be the clown's face that sent Carty into cardiac arrest. He had on a heavy mask. Faded red and white paint was all over it. His painted expression an indifferent glare. The fresh makeup around his mouth and eyes was pointed rather than round. At a circus, the man would have been fired for doing a half-assed job. But out here in the dark, he was fucking terrifying. Uneasy, JJ leaned in toward Veronica. "You sure we should like to pull over?" Ignoring him, Veronica stopped near the clown and rolled down the window. "Hey there," she said. The man just stared at us like he was studying our crew. Dead silent. "Is this Pope's?" Veronica asked, doing her best to stifle her shaky voice. No answer. Even the forest was totally silent. I heard no cars, no laughter, no screams, not even a damn animal. I leaned in closer to support Veronica. "The GPS took us here," I said to the clown. Instead of an answer, the clown just looked over at Carty, like he was drawn to her obvious fear. Terrified, Carty squirmed back in her seat. "Hey," Veronica demanded. Moving slower than a mime, the clown confronted her. "Where do we park?" Veronica said. With startling quickness, the clown reached toward Veronica. I started to lunge out my seat. "Hey, asshole." "Whoa, hold on." A voice of obnoxious friendliness echoed toward us. Startled, we all saw a blonde-haired man wrap an arm around the clown. The man looked to be in his 30s. He was dressed as an old carnival barker. Checkered vest and bow tie. Apparently, Pope's theme this year was Great Depression-era carnivals. The blonde had that look of an ultra-friendly street performer. You know, a con artist. All fast talk and charisma, no sincerity, a permanent smile on his face. Displeased, the clown didn't show any sign of friendliness toward the man. He just kept his cold eyes on Carty. "Hey, I'm Joey," the blonde told us in a shit-shooter tone. He squeezed the clown's shoulder, further aggravating the masked man. "I'm sorry about Bozo here. He doesn't talk too much." "No, that's fine," Veronica said. Joey pointed down the side road. "Just pull on in there. Park anywhere you like." Hesitant, Veronica looked down the dark road. It looked bumpy and rough, more like a trail than a road. "It doesn't look crowded." "No, you all got here a little late," Joey insisted. He leaned in closer. His face resembled an enthusiastic ventriloquist's dummy, like a walking cartoon. "But you all still got a few more hours." He turned his grin toward Carty. "It's Friday night after all." Her discomfort obvious, Carty did her best to avoid looking at Joey's beaming smile. "Thanks," Veronica said. "If you all need anything, just let me know," Joey said. He grabbed the clown's arm. "Let's go, Bozo." The two friends made their way back toward the woods. They were a strange pairing, on totally opposite ends on the customer service archetypes. Veronica looked over at me. "Well, we're already here." "Yeah, let's go," JJ chimed in with drunken excitement. Veronica faced Carty. "What do you think?" Smiling, Carty pulled another mini bottle from her bag. "Fuck it." We all laughed as Veronica turned onto the side road. Our crew jumped with each bump the SUV hit. I noticed the darkness here stemmed not from anything supernatural, but from how the tall trees spiraled into one another to form a collective roof over the road. Feeling buzzed, I stole a look back. I wasn't sure, but I thought I saw a figure standing a few feet behind us. They watched us drive off, a great big smile on their face, an undeniable smile that had to be Joey's. Soon, we parked in a field that had been converted into a makeshift parking lot. A few scattered jack-o'-lanterns were the only source of light. Not optimal, but hey, the atmosphere was cool. Not many people were left. I counted less than 10 cars. Strange for a Friday night in October, I thought. In the car, Veronica and Carty polished off their remaining mini bottles. Needless to say, me and JJ were still lit. Hell, we all were. I reminded everyone they'd stop selling tickets soon, and we made our way out. The night was just getting started. We walked up to the front entrance. It was just an old shed with Haunted Farm painted across the top of it. A small open window was the place's makeshift ticket booth, like the parking lot. This was so grassroots. No one was in line. Behind the entrance gate, I could make out a conglomeration of sheds and old buildings. Needless to say, it was pretty dark and empty. The looming forest surrounded us for miles. I guess the Haunted Farm was our closest avenue to civilization, and I wasn't sure that was a good thing. I wrapped my arm tight around Veronica. She giggled as she teased Carty about all the scary shit that awaited us. JJ's drunken laughter blared through the night. A cool breeze swept through our group, sending us chills. I held on to Veronica just to stay warm. All I had on was a hoodie. Pope's had to be at least 10 degrees cooler than Columbus. At the ticket booth, a kind lady sold us our tickets. I paid for everyone with cash. I didn't mind as it was so much cheaper than I remembered. You came on a lucky night, the lady told us. A lit jack-o'-lantern was the only light inside her shed. The lady herself looked to be too young to be one of those senior citizen volunteers, but too old to be a minimum wage co-ed. Regardless of her wrinkles and lack of makeup, she was quite cute. A nice smile plastered on her face. The jack-o'-lantern basked her in a favorable yet mysterious light. Just how she wanted it, I figured. Like Joey, she wore the same strange 1930s carnival barker outfit. Even her name tag used a flashy font fit for the era's marquees. Faye, Haunted Farm Curator. Why is it our lucky night? JJ chuckled. With a wide smile that rivaled Joey's, Faye handed him a ticket. It's half price this weekend. Shit, that's crazy, I blurted out. Veronica gave me a light punch on the shoulder. Patrick. Faye's smile never vanished. Just don't use that language when you're out there getting scared, she teased. Oh, I won't, I responded. Yeah, right, Veronica joked. Everyone but Carty chuckled. Her nervous gaze stayed fixated on the Haunted Farm. She looks reminiscent of a terrified soldier looking on at a battlefield. Faye sat in her chair. I'd recommend going through the barn first. She motioned off toward the very back of the farm, toward the woods. Then save the haunted forest for last. They're the last ones to close. Awesome, I commented. Reverberating with drunken excitement, JJ was ready to lead the way. All right, let's go. Veronica gave me a sloppy wet kiss. You gon' protect me? I'll do my best, I quipped. As if she sensed her fear, Faye looked right at Carty. Is this your first time? Startled, Carty looked at her like a student who'd just been ambushed by a suspicious teacher. Yeah, I usually don't do these sorts of things. Why'd you tell her? Veronica joked. We all laughed. Faye's laugh was pleasant if louder than all of ours combined. Well, you'll have fun, Faye told Carty. This farm's been here for years, but they can't like to touch us, right? The nervous Carty asked, confused. Faye stared right at Carty. What do you mean? Oh shit, JJ joked, chuckling. Veronica wrapped an arm around Carty. I got you, girly. As we entered through the gate opening, Veronica did her best to comfort Carty. I suspected Veronica knew her efforts would be in vain, but she had to be the supportive best friend. I stole a look back at Faye, but the booth was empty. The jack-lantern's light had been put out. I guess we really were the last customers. I realized that like Joey, Faye resembled another caricature. Rather than a shit-shooting barker, she reminded me of those gentle caretakers you see in the movies. You know, the ones who either take care of cemeteries or oddball attractions like this. Once we got to the farm, the breeze picked up, and so did the chills. I had flashbacks to my first trip to this farm. There was a large barn, the eerie stables, a cornfield populated by abandoned wagons and tall stalks, a small bathroom, even a concessions stand positioned under a red tent. The whole area itself was lit up by nothing more than an army of jack-o'-lanterns. We stopped next to a stable. Tall skeleton figurines and mannequins stood inside it, most of the females. The sight was more glorious than a Halloween manger scene. I, Veronica, and JJ enjoyed checking out the farm. On the other hand, Carty was scared shitless. However, things still looked different to me. It felt different at least. I remembered the Popes being a little more modern. There were vending machines, constant rock and party music blaring on the speakers. Here, the farm was quiet. Either Popes had downsized or they really were pushing this AHS freak show shit 4 years too late. I counted more workers than customers, more monsters than customers too. There was Joey lurking by the concession stand. He gave us that never-ending smile, practically begging us to come to buy an overpriced drink. A few more carnies were near us as well, their uniforms all just as outrageous. Joey and Faye's. I even saw a few kid carnies complete with their own little uniforms. One of them even had a cheesy carnival barker cane. Then there were the monsters. Their masks were quite impressive. The place had everything from walking scarecrows to aliens to a tall werewolf. Most of them stayed in the shadows, probably navigating through all the attractions. I figured. Either way, they seemed to enjoy gawking at us. Their way of pre-game intimidation. Michael Myers popped up right next to Carty. The dude even carried a real butcher knife. This farm wasn't fucking around. Shrieking, Carty snatched JJ's arm. That's just gonna make Michael jealous, I joked to her. With that, Mikey stormed off into the forest. I think you're the one pissing him off, Veronica said to me. Annoyed, Carty took a deep breath. God, this shit is freaking me out. Guys, yo, look over there, JJ yelled. We all turned to see our clown friend from earlier walking off into the cornfield. The lantern swung back and forth in his grip like a pendulum. Oh, God, Carty exclaimed. Looks like he's waiting on us, I joked in a mock horror host voice. As he heard me through the cold silence, Bozo stopped and faced us with that glaring mask. His stare down long and intense. I noticed Carty's grip squeeze the blood from JJ's arm. His cringing face made it obvious. Hey, man, I yelled to the clown in all my drunken obnoxious glory. The clown held the lantern to his face and waved me over. Not a taunting wave, like one a friendly neighbor gives you. What the fuck, I thought. Veronica gave me a deserved punch on the shoulder. Chill, babe. I am, I replied. I looked back at the cornfield, but the clown was gone. Emerging from the stable, a tall female skeleton staggered toward Carty. Apparently, they weren't all mannequins and figurines. Yelling with final girl lungs, Carty jumped back in fright. Shit, I yelled, like a pleading mime. The female skeleton held her gloved hands out toward us. Her anguished skull mask stared back at me and Veronica. The eyes behind it are even more pitiful, sympathetic even. Hey, let's go, man, JJ said. He led us toward the barn in a hurry. Lagging behind, Veronica stared at the skeleton. The skeleton woman stayed by the stable, but she kept her eyes on us. She extended a hand out toward Veronica in a timid gesture. Come on, Veronica. JJ called to her. I grabbed Veronica's hand. Let's go. Together, we followed JJ and Carty. But neither of us could stop looking back at that melancholy skeleton. She wasn't even trying to scare us. She wanted our attention. The first few attractions were awesome. I loved the fucking barn. I'd forgotten just how huge it was. The thing was like a rickety barn on the outside and a warehouse of corridors on the inside. There were elaborate rooms full of smoke and fog, a clown's section, hospital operating tables, and yes, a guy with a chainsaw, but it all felt so cinematic. The motherfuckers even had a mental asylum breakdown scenario play out. The mummified woman holding a crying baby really got me. Then again, it got everyone. I thought I even heard JJ screaming more than Carty. Even as veterans of the scare scene, me and Veronica couldn't help it either. We fucking screamed like crazy too. I heard one of the carnies bark across the barn for me to stop cussing. But hey, I couldn't help it. Surprisingly, the monsters weren't even the scariest part. They mostly stayed in their lane. None of them even really jumped out for cheap scares either. At least, they didn't seem to be trying to. Most of the scares came from the atmosphere and situations which I can appreciate. More of the same happened on the hayride through the haunted cornfield. The field's dilapidated sheds housed all sorts of creepy scenes, seances, cult rituals, etc. The cornfield itself housed plenty of the monsters as well. Only none of them jumped out at us or ambushed us as I expected. I remembered the popes being known for that. What a pleasant surprise, I figured. And the fucking scarecrows, holy shit. We could never tell which were fake and which were planted until the carny drove us right next to them. We screamed and screamed again. During the hayride, Carty was clinging to both Veronica and JJ's arms, squeezing the life out of the siblings. I'm glad I had a corner seat. God knows, her screams were rupturing my eardrums bad enough as is, and she'd been screaming all night, like bees on honey. The monsters followed us around the entire time. They gravitated to Carty. Michael Myers, in particular, wouldn't let up. Sure, they all kept their distance and didn't touch us, they just stalked in the shadows. This was awesome for me and Veronica, and a total nightmare for Carty. But something still bothered me inside. Sure, there were cars in the parking lot. Some cars. But where the fuck was everyone at? Wouldn't employee parking be elsewhere? Throughout the attractions, I only saw a family, two middle-aged parents and their young son and daughter. Both the son and daughter wore glasses and black Halloween sweaters. They all looked like a bunch of suburbanites, a nuclear family straight out of a sitcom. Like Carty, those kids didn't have a chance. The monsters gravitated toward them, and all the animatronic props seemed to specifically target them. Together, their shrill screams formed a reoccurring soundtrack for the farm. It was getting close to 1 a.m. by the time we were ready to embark on the haunted forest. We made our way up to the bathrooms for a quick piss break, and sure enough, Mikey Myers was following us. The jack-o'-lantern lighting shined off his vicious knife. I noticed the light also illuminated his scarred, craggy hands. So many cuts and scars ran along with the man's thick fingers. None of the wounds looked fake either. At least, he kept about a 5-foot distance between us. Not that helped Carty's nerves any. Anxious, she kept glancing back like a squad car was trailing her. I looked around for the sitcom family, but they were now gone. Come to think of it, they weren't on the hayride either. Maybe they left early? Apparently, like all the other damn customers had. So now here we were, just us, the workers, and the creatures of Pope's Farm. Who's ready for the haunted forest? I asked. The final attraction, JJ said with a smile. Veronica chuckled, shivering. Carty zipped up her jacket. As we kept walking, Veronica pulled me in closer. Her seductive smile caught my eye. We shared another kiss. Grinning, I looked back. No monsters were behind us now, not even Michael. "Hey, I think we're safe now, Carty," I joked. The bathrooms were surprisingly clean. Too clean, especially for a haunted farm. Then again, judging by tonight's showing, they must have been hardly used. JJ and I each took a beer-powered piss. I walked up to the mirror and tried to straighten my hair. Unlike the rest of the farm, at least the bathroom had real lighting. Loud, humming bulbs lit it up like a clinical lab. JJ headed for the door. "I'll be outside." "All right," I replied. I was all alone. Right before I was gonna leave, the bathroom door swung open. I turned to see the werewolf stop in front of the doorway. The tall dude was dressed in black robes, his face disguised by a furry mask. Big ears, long snout. Scared by the sudden entrance, I staggered back. "Whoa, you scared me," I said with a smile. The wolfman just stood there. His dark eyes looked on at me, never blinking. "Nice mask," I added. And then the werewolf walked into one of the stalls. I watched him close the door and lock it. An overpowering stream of urine was heard hitting the toilet water. All I saw was his wild hair sticking up above the stall walls. The crazy fucker left his mask on. Hopefully, he wouldn't piss on himself. Then another stall door opened up and out walked Michael Myers. The same Michael Myers we just saw earlier. His scarred hand still held that long knife. Uneasy, I watched him march up to me. He'd never taken his mask off either, and right now his stoic eyes were marking me, just like the blade was. As he got closer, Mikey raised the sharp knife. His other cut-up hand reached out toward me. Fuck it. I hate to admit when I'm scared, but right then I was terrified. I bolted for the door, leaving the restroom in a hurry. Outside, Veronica and they were waiting. Concerned, Veronica grabbed my shoulder. "Hey, are you okay?" I nodded. "Yeah." Turning, I looked back at the bathroom. To my relief, Michael hadn't followed me out. "I'm fine. Let's go to the haunted trail before they close," JJ said. Carty took a deep breath. "The last one, right?" Chuckling, Veronica hugged her. "We'll make it." The three of them walked toward the trail. The haunted forest's banner showed cackling monster faces and jack-o'-lanterns amongst all the other Halloween caricatures. All of them were on the banner's canvas of an illustrated forest. I looked over at the bathroom for a moment, but no one ever came out. No Wolfman, no Michael Myers. "Come on, Patrick," I heard Veronica yell. Nervous, I followed after them. There was no point in being alone, especially if any of those motherfuckers ever came out of the bathroom. Besides, we still hid the haunted forest after all.